Cellulite, the bumpy and dimply appearance we often see in our thighs, hips, and buttocks, causing lowest self-esteem and shyness, especially in those areas of our body. There are so many articles, exercises, new procedures, and creams all aimed at how to get rid of cellulite. But there's also this wave of women embracing their cellulite and talking about how it's completely normal. So today I want to answer the question of what is cellulite, is it bad, or is it perfectly normal? Intro. Bum, 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 ba-da-rum, bum, bum. It's perfectly normal. What's up, guys? It's Jo, and welcome to the very first episode of Perfectly Normal, a series where we talk about things society has told us was bad, ugly, and gross, but it is in fact perfectly normal. Now, there's a long list of things that society has made us feel bad about, and on top of that list is cellulite. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and also subscribe so that we can make more. You can also follow me on my socials if you want to keep up. Okay, let's just get into the video. My first experience with cellulite was when I saw this fitness influencer reviewing leggings, and she had one of her criteria be cellulite proof. I started to look at my legs and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what she means. And then I would see posts of people talking about how cellulite holds your toxins and it's gross and it's bad and it's a sign of being unhealthy. And then I saw this thesis on cellulite, and it talked about how cellulite was not a real thing, or at least the idea of cellulite wasn't really a problem or a thing. Part 1. What is cellulite? I want to make sure what we're talking about is legit information as we dive into self-discovery. So of course, I consulted some dermatologists.
I'm Dr. Risa Caldoza. I'm a certified physician, dermatologist. I've been a dermatologist for 23 years. My clinic is Vanity Skin Aesthetics.
I'm Dr. Francesca Sy-Alvarado. I'm a board-certified dermatologist. I've been in practice since 2018. So I'm the owner and co-founder of Quad Clinic here in Makati.
What is cellulite actually?
Cellulite, it's a normal occurrence, especially among females, especially as we age. It's a very common problem that patients come to me for.
Cellulite, it's a common complaint, no?
They come to me and say, Doc, ang dami kong cellulites, hindi ako makapag-short.
You see that cellulite as that dimply texture on your skin, but what is happening below?
It's not pathologic, meaning it's not a sickness or disease. It's normal, but it's unsightly.
It's actually a structural, inflammatory, and biochemical disorder of the subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous fat meaning it's the fat under the skin.
Ang loob niyan, once you open it up, these are fat cells.
Our fat cells are divided into lobules. There are fibrous septae of collagen. It's also tethered or nakadikit siya. This comes immediately after the skin.
And then the connective tissue pulls it. So it's a push and pull reaction. Pushes it away to skin. Tissues connecting the skin to the muscles pulls it downwards.
That leads to the dimpling that we see in cellulite.
It's usually the push and pull of your muscle fibers that creates these dimples. It's perfectly normal.
We describe it as either an orange peel, yung parang balat ng orange. That's mild. Moderate naman is para siyang cottage cheese. Pag severe na, mattress. Now, it's very common in the buttocks, in the thighs, in the abdomen. Very rarely do we see it in other parts of the body.
Who usually has cellulite? Over 80 to 98% of women have cellulite, and a small percentage of men as well.
Iba kasi yung fat type natin compared to men. Our fat distribution is here in our lower portion, in our abdomen, in our buttocks, in our thighs.
It's actually the orientation of the bands in between the fat lobules. So for example, males would have more of a crisscross na formation nung fibrous septae, while females would have more of a perpendicular.
It's considered a secondary female sexual characteristic, kind of like having boobs. Why do we have cellulite?
Actually, there are a lot of predisposing factors.
Sex at birth,
Females would have a greater predisposition to cellulite.
genetics,
hereditary or genetic factor, minsan mana-mana. So sometimes even if you're lean, you still have cellulite.
skin thickness,
Manipis yung skin mo, umangat lang ng konti, halatang-halata na.
hormones,
In females, estrogen, kumbaga it favors more fat production.
age,
Once we age, we lose elasticity of the skin.
and circulation problems.
There's also another theory that microcirculation problems, normal accumulation of fluid, which is actually sometimes why they recommend, okay, you should massage the cellulite so it doesn't really build up. It's a very, very minor components.
Is there any way to actually get rid of cellulite?
Let's manage our expectations because there's no treatment for it. I don't want to give false hope. Depends on what your goal is. But you can manage it. It's something that you're comfortable with.
What are the ways that we can manage our cellulite?
Healthy habits.
To lifestyle modifications, having balanced diet.
Then you do your exercises. It firms up your body. Hindi masyadong noticeable. Smoking and all those things. Drugs. Drinking. Affects your skin eh. Once talagang you cannot take it na, that's the time we go to the treatment modalities that doctors have. There are creams, but in all honesty talaga, very rarely na it would work.
They would probably affect more of the skin quality. In general, if you thicken the skin, they would look less obvious. It's not something that we can totally rely on.
Ones with retinol, AHA, caffeine component para ma-stretch yung skin.
Some botanical derivatives, they may have some antioxidant properties. They can help with microcirculation.
Temporary yung effect niya.
If you had the time and effort, why not? It's not something completely harmful.
There are mga derma procedures that we use machines na for that.
There are some energy-based devices like microwave,
Radio frequency, sound waves, and dermology is one.
laser wavelengths that would concentrate into the fat,
Goes deep into the skin and then shrink niya.
decreasing the bulk of the fat, not necessarily the fibers.
That would work, but you have to do it regularly for the next 6 months.
Process called subcision. It's
I will never recommend it to patients.
wherein you break the fibrous bands from underneath the skin into this exact layer of fat.
Para bumitaw. So pag bumitaw, hindi na siya magdidimple.
Liposuction. This also causes breakage to the fibrous septate.
Cryotherapy. What it does is a vacuum, it sucks the fat and then i-freeze na yung fat.
What are the risks?
Of course, we know this is not for everyone.
Number one, it's very painful. It's invasive. Why would you do that to your body?
Of course, you can react to the anesthesia with more invasive procedures. We can get fat embolism, so parts of fat can dislodge and go into blood vessels, and these blood vessels could block major arteries.
Because the side effects might not be parallel to what you want it to be. Kinis ka nga. Nag-necrose naman yung buong legs. Oof, I would not suggest it. But there are people who would want to. So again, it's their preference.
It's something actually that's best discussed with your provider, your surgeon.
But it will take time. It will take money. And it will take a lot of patience in your part.
It doesn't interfere with your way of life. The accumulation of fluid, which is a minor contribution, diba? It's not something that we should be worried about or actually actively treat.
So if cellulite is a perfectly normal human feature, especially for women,
I have them too, and my mom has them too.
I have cellulites as well. I have 3 kids.
A lot of my close friends have them. Don't have it. Okay lang yan.
why is everyone trying to get rid of it? Part 2. Why is cellulite seen as bad? Of course, one of the biggest reasons why we view cellulite as bad nowadays is because we always aim for flawless perfection. Perfection that doesn't really exist.
There's the social stigma of not being perfect. You see perfect bodies which are, come on, it's filtered. Rainbows and glitters. It's not real.
But is there more to it? So this article by Refinery29 entitled Cellulite Isn't Real, This is How It Was Invented. It's based off of a thesis written by Professor Risa Caldoza, and this thesis is in French. Probably one of the most in-depth resources we have about this specific topic, and I kind of wish there were more things like this for every single insecurity we have. But anyways, half a century ago, no one in this country had even heard of cellulite, in this world probably, let alone identified it as a problem to be gotten rid of. In the thesis, it also mentions how in old paintings and sculptures you would see the cellulite just real, it existed, it was there. It wasn't necessarily something that was bad, it didn't really even have a term before that. So if it wasn't a problem before then, where was the origin? What is the villain story of cellulite? It begins in France, in a French medical dictionary to be exact. In 1873, doctors, okay, I'm sorry if I'm about to butcher their names, Emily Latour and Charles-Philippe Robin included the word cellulite in the 12th edition of the Dictionnaire de Médecine. The definition in the dictionary had no relation to dimples or fat at that time. It was actually talking about an inflammation or infection in the tissues, which is now called cellulitis. how did it lose its definition and now relate to fat? It's hard to track its exact trajectory, but Gigi points out, this was an era when medical science was advancing at a rapid rate. At the same time, another industry was also booming, the beauty industry. This was also post-war in France. This was the Franco-Prussian War or Franco-German War, often referred to in France as the War of 1870. We're also doing a full-on history tutorial. Tutorial na pala yun. Anyway, so because of the rise of medicine and the rise of beauty, new specialists came into play. So we have now your aestheticians, your masseuses.
Dermatology was plainly derma. It's for clinical practice. May sakit ka sa balat, you go to the derma. Now you don't. You go to the derma to beautify yourself, simply for aesthetics.
But the thing is, there weren't many distinct lines between beauty, medicine, health, and science. They were all pretty just like interconnected and jumbled into one thing, which now you could probably hear as the wellness industry. At this time, women were also having a moment. Many traditional gender roles had gone out the window. More and more women had become self-sufficient, taking on higher paying jobs in industries traditionally dominated by men. Go women! But above all, women were visible. It was not only the presence of female bodies, but also the display of those bodies in the media. So women were everywhere now. They were coming out of their shells. They were living their lives. They had short hair and expendable income. Patriarchy was like, bro, what the hell are we gonna do about this? So they told the women how to spend their cash. Professor Gigi cites the February 1933 edition of Votre magazine, the magazine showed the first use of cellulite in mainstream publication. And this is also where it got its new definition. The article written by Dr. Debeck defined cellulite as a combination of water, residues, toxins, fat, which form a mixture against which one is badly armed. The result was something like fat, but different from other fat in that it seemed impossible to get rid of. It was also a feminine problem. And of course, after the article, more articles followed suit. French spas began to advertise treatments for this condition. There were special soaps now, massages, beauty rubbers. And at the same time, readers were writing into the magazine and trying to figure out what the heck cellulite was and how to get rid of it. But nothing was clear. It's a little bit up in the air. Some also say that World War II was when lipophobia or fat phobia really began to emerge. And we can see how these two kind of come hand in hand. This version of fat, cellulite, was seen as something bad. So of course, the fear of fat would also rise with that.
There's this culture kasi of associating fat with unhealthiness. You can have a really small body frame but have that structural problem with regard to the band. So it's not necessarily related to how much fat you have.
Socialist scientist Claude Fisher wrote in his study on fat phobia, the process triggered a number of trends which were to radically alter attitudes about food and eating as well as body image. New ideas about female appearance became full-blown beauty standards. Apparently, this is also when the hourglass shape started to come up as well. The corset was up at this time, so it would definitely amplify that. This is also when the concept of dieting became popularized, as well as the sentiment of self-determination, which means you're creating your own unhappiness if you fail a diet. Again, telling us we are the failures and it is our fault. Thinness is treated as a personal achievement. Very much indeed, we have so many people commenting on losing weight, no matter what way that is, and shaming people who gain weight without knowing how that happened either. Being fit and lean is currently considered a matter of self-discipline and dedication of courage. Before, body fat was seen as prosperity, but from this point on, it was considered a useless parasitic load. Fatness was now a symbol of weakness, laziness, and even immorality. It was a personal failure. That's something that is still very much brought up today. And cellulite was a visible hallmark of that failure.
In puberty, these are 12, 13, and they're already saying, Doc, I want to prevent. Kasi my mom's fat eh. I don't want to be fat like her, so I don't want to have cellulites, I don't have to stretch marks. I think it's too soon. I want the children to be children first.
Vogue became the first English language periodical to print the term cellulite. This line right here. Engendering both a new word and a fashionable new way for American women to hate their bodies. bodies, and all women, until this day. Can you imagine? It started like almost 50 years ago. The article described a young woman who feared she had waited too long to get diagnosed of a disease called cellulite, but was thankfully able to get rid of it through exercise, diet, standing correctly, and rubbing herself with a special rolling pin. It reminds me of the time I would wrap myself in cling wrap because I thought that that was a way to fix my body. As the new standard of female beauty took root across the Western world, so did the panic over cellulite. We are still, up to this day, seeing articles on how to fight cellulite.
I think it just burgeoned into something really, really negative because of the internet. They search, and you don't trust everything there. The internet is not your doctor. Yung mga ganon, it damages the self-esteem.
There's a lot of information we just went through, and that was only based on one article. There are also a lot more articles that have come up. I think I can summarize to 3 reasons why we think cellulite is bad. Number 1, it was the age of discovery. Misinformation was kind of bound to happen. It started off as just figuring out what the inflammation of the skin might be and possibly confusing it with what they saw in our body, but it started to change into something else. Which brings us to number 2, it's a fat-phobic thing. Cellulite is subcutaneous fat that bulges out of the skin. It was also another way to tell people in larger bodies that they have to fix themselves, they are unhealthy and lazy, and that they are just parasitic load. But any shape and size can have cellulite. There is just so much damage that needs to be fixed. And number 3, was it a way to keep women busy? Seeing as this coincided with a time of women finding their space, it was also the perfect time to tell them to stay back into their place. Oh, she's a rhymer.
90% of men think cellulites are ugly. They will believe that to the extent that they get depressed about it. They don't wear shorts anymore, even if it's so hot.
As most of our insecurities are normal things we were told were not normal, and now we spend a ton of money and time trying to get rid of it, but we can't because it's normal. Most of our insecurities come from things we don't understand. And I think if we learn to understand our body better, it would be much easier to focus on kindness.
And we don't all have the same understanding of what's normal and what's not. So me, as a provider, I have to tell them that, oh, it's actually very common.
So is cellulite perfectly normal?
Yes! Yes! Big yes, diba?
Cellulite is perfectly normal.
Normal lang yan, as long as we're doing what we can to overall be healthy.
Now, of course, if you are not comfortable in your cellulite, there are ways to minimize the exposure of it and help you feel more comfortable. But I hope that you remember that cellulite is perfectly normal, and your body and you are not broken for having it. So thank you so much for watching this video. If it was helpful for you in any way on your journey, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to this channel so that we can make more. You can also share this video with your friends so that they can learn a little bit about cellulite as well. Also, comment below what you want to talk about next. I hope you find a way to celebrate your body today. Bye!